right. Thanks everyone for turning up after the party to talk about crypto developer tools. You're going to have to apply your brain a bit, but I'm going to try to help you as much as I can. My name is Peteris Erins. I'm the founder of Auditless. We are a developer tools company in crypto. We're working on a developer environment for Ethereum. Today I'm mainly going to be talking in the context of smart contracts. There's other developer tools out there, but these are the really exciting ones. Give me just a raise of hands who feels like they understand what smart contracts are. All right, nice few people. Okay, so go over it. Cool, so smart contracts as opposed to, say, a legal contract. So a legal contract is an agreement that allows people to exchange some rights, right, or two parties. A smart contract is slightly different. It's written in code rather than in a legal document. It also allows people to exchange some rights, but usually also exchange some value. So all it is just a piece of code that governs rules of how two parties or multiple parties can come together and trade maybe some digital assets or some rights or art pieces, and in a way that you can run on a bunch of computers in a network. So it's a pretty straightforward concept. Okay. My goal today is to give you some intuition of why developer tools are really important in crypto and actually in the evolution of blockchain, and also get you excited about this market. Whether you are an investor, an entrepreneur, or you're someone who's looking for a cool space to work in, I think this is a really exciting market to be aware of. To make the case, I'll start with a story. So Hayden was a recent graduate who was working in a mechanical engineering job in Siemens, and he got laid off. He contacted his friend Carl, who worked in the Ethereum Foundation, which is one of the major smart contract platforms in the crypto space. And he said, Carl, I just got laid off. What should I do? Carl says, congratulations. This is the best thing that could have happened to you. Mechanical engineering is a dying field. Ethereum's the future, and you're so early. Your new destiny is to write smart contracts. Obviously, Hayden goes, yeah, okay. Don't I need to know at least how to code? Isn't this a very technical thing? Carl says, not really. Coding is easy. And nobody really understands how to write smart contracts yet anyways. Okay, so that's convinced Hayden. I mean, he doesn't have anything else to do. He goes ahead and tries to figure out how to learn this stuff. But he has to first have something to work on, right? There's this concept of an exchange. So a traditional stock market, for example, is a form of an exchange. In a stock market, you can basically buy and sell stocks in exchange for cash. There's different types of exchanges. In the crypto world, you have similar exchanges where you can exchange crypto assets, right? Now, there's this idea that Carl had heard about, which is allowing you to implement an exchange in crypto in a way which doesn't require you to match participants, right? So a traditional exchange, let's say I could create an exchange right now between you to trade different currencies, because you're all from a few different countries here. I would have to find a way to match you, right? Who has some dollars, who has some euros, and then find a price where you can trade those things. Now in crypto, you can do that, but there is actually a simpler way where you can create an exchange which doesn't require matching participants, where you can just trade directly with the exchange. And so the way it's basically done is there is a kind of a tricky mathematical formula which says, okay, there's an automatic way where the exchange can give you a price. Cool. So Hayden says, okay, let me try to do that. So he starts learning how to code. It takes him a couple of months, right? Remember, this happened in July. In November, he launches the first proof of concept, right? So in a couple of months, he's learned how to code, and he's launched the first concept of an exchange on Ethereum. So what happens next? Well, not much, right? There's not a lot of adoption. So Hayden keeps working at it. He manages to raise a grant from the Ethereum Foundation. He starts to build a little bit of a team. There's a little bit of adoption. And fast forward to today, there's $75 million under this exchange, under this little piece of code that he launched from his bedroom and put on the blockchain, right? Okay, for those of you who are familiar with traditional exchanges, 75 million isn't a massive amount. But just to put this in context, the decentralized finance movement, right, which covers lending, exchanges, and other financial instruments in crypto, has only just hit $1 billion in assets. So this is nearly 10% of the overall assets locked. So he's created one of the most important financial instruments currently on the Ethereum blockchain. And that's all grown very recently, right? So even in the last 2 months, the assets locked in his protocol have doubled. And that growth is going to only go on. His plan is to really take over the world of exchanges, and he plans to compete with traditional exchanges as well, right? So let's look at those beasts. A traditional exchange, who here has seen the New York Stock Exchange or a London Stock Exchange? A couple people, yeah. Really, really cool buildings, right? They're traditional, old, massive, beautiful buildings with lots of people inside. What are these people doing? Like, why do we need more than 5 people to run an exchange? Well, there's a few things, right? There's obviously some technology involved, but there's a lot of operations, there's some product development, there's some business support, there's some sales and marketing, risk management. I actually went on their website and counted how many distinct roles there are. And I'm not just saying, senior developers, junior developers, and I'm saying really distinct roles. There's over 50 openings right now to work at the New York Stock Exchange, right? So a lot of different types of roles. And herein is the case for developer tools. Because the question Hayden faces is how can he provide the same level of security, the same level of risk management, the same level of service that the New York Stock Exchange provides to their clients, right? He still needs to be compliant. I'm pretty sure he doesn't want to end up in handcuffs. He still wants to make sure that people's funds don't get stolen. So these things are really important. But he doesn't have a team of 500 people, 1,000 people. He has a team of less than 10 people to figure this out. And that's where developer tools come into crypto. They help us bridge the gap between a small team of developers who is able to compete with the biggest financial services companies of our day. Just to give you some examples of the developer tools that Uniswap is using to help them develop a secure financial instrument. So of course they need a programming language. Smart contracts have their own programming language, so they're using Viper. They also need economic modeling. Why would they need economic modeling? Well, a basic thing you need in exchange is you need some money, right? When people come to you with a certain type of asset, you want to have a reserve of, multiple types of assets so you can trade whichever way they want to trade. Now, Hayden initially didn't have $10 or $20 million to fund this exchange, so where does he get the money? His idea was, well, let people provide the money, we'll pay them a fee. Let's bring in people, we're going to call them liquidity providers. They're going to bring their money to the protocol, and we're going to pay the fee when the trades are being made. So other people are going to come to the exchange, they're going to say, I want to trade this asset. The liquidity providers get a fee, the people can trade, Hayden doesn't have to own any of the money, doesn't have to put in any of the money, it's all happening automatically. And that's where economic modeling comes in. Because you have questions like, what is the right level of fee to make sure people are actually providing liquidity, right? What is a safe level of compensation that doesn't lead the people who want to use this exchange to go to another exchange and seek lower fees, right? All these questions you need some sort of incentive or simulation modeling to help understand, and Gauntlet helps with that. They have a development environment that helps them understand the low-level virtual machine in Ethereum, right? Why is that important? Well, as I said before, there's no team of lawyers here that can make sure that the smart contract is executed fairly. They can make sure that if there's fraud in the system, that you have someone to call up. The code has to be perfect. It has to be flawless. And to make it so, you need to understand what's happening at the low level. And the final tool is the CAME framework, which is a formal verification tool. How many of you have heard about formal verification before? Yeah. It is not used very widely in software engineering, because if we're making web apps, we can just ship a new version. If there's a problem, fine. We'll refund the account, we'll ship a new version, we're fine. But if there's a problem with code on a rocket, If there's a problem with a design of a piece of hardware, it's much more expensive for us to ship our customers a new version, or to ship code to a rocket that's going to the moon. Impossible, right? So NASA uses formal verification, hardware manufacturers use formal verification, and in crypto, formal verification is used as well to verify smart contracts and make sure they work perfectly as intended. Because when they don't, it's really expensive. There are an ongoing set of vulnerabilities and exploits that hackers are constantly trying to find. Over hundreds of millions of assets value has been lost. And even just within the last 2 weeks, there's been a new major on-scene type of exploit called flash loans. And I'm sure more to come. Let's look at some more examples. We have things that will map quite nicely to things you may have seen in the web world. We have a way to look at analytics on the blockchain. So the Graph protocol allows you to, for example, see how many exchanges Uniswap has. It allows you to see what the volume is. There are tools that help you analyze the code and automatically find vulnerabilities, right? As I mentioned, when these vulnerabilities are found, the people that are trying to protect this ecosystem usually write them up in a database, and they create tools that automate the checks for those types of errors. So a new programmer, like if some of you are going to go and write smart contracts now, you can leverage these tools, and they're going to make sure you don't make the same mistakes that were made a couple of times already. And just to talk about the ecosystem as a whole, there are many other smart contract platforms apart from Ethereum, and they have really cool tools as well that usually map. So this EOS Studio is an example of an integrated development environment that exists in a completely different smart contract platform. The investors in the room may say, hold on a second, you're talking about developer tools, and you're saying that developer tools is an exciting market. For the past 10 years, we have been focusing on marketing software as a service applications. We've been focusing on helping HR and business, and developer tools have not really had major exits or major growth stories. But that is changing. This is a list that was compiled on the most important enterprise companies based on different sizes globally. You may recognize some developer tools companies, but Tom Tungish did a very useful cut of this information. He looked at it by buyer, and he discovered that actually engineering is the main buyer of the hottest enterprise tools out there. 11% of those tools were actually sold to engineering. By definition, that is a developer tool, right? So things like Stripe, perfect examples where you can actually be really successful with a developer tool. And the same is coming to crypto. If you ask Kleiner Perkins, they're really excited about crypto developer tools. They say massive businesses like Stripe and Twilio were built on the back of one mission, abstracting complicated building blocks for developers so they can focus on bringing new ideas to market faster. Now, as decentralized apps, or dApps as we call them, accelerate and talent flows into the space, there's a similar window for businesses within the crypto ecosystem to launch these developer tools. From a major media provider in crypto, Masari, they're saying it's hopeful that Ethereum has been live for just 4 years. Right? It's really early. Critical developer infrastructure is still missing. 2019 was a banner year. Lots of things were built, but more to come. They're talking about infrastructure. They're talking about nodes as a service, code editing tools, and some of the other examples that I showed today. There are some headwinds, though, right? One of them is the number of developers. So far, we're not seeing an immediate growth curve in the number of developers on these platforms. What happened here? I mean, some of you may be familiar that in 2017, we have the big craze of the ICO cycle, and so a lot of people started working in the ecosystem, and there was a lot of apps being built. Now, we've dropped down from that, but I think and I hope that we're seeing a coming back, but it hasn't really happened yet. What we have to wait for is, as decentralized finance is becoming successful, just hitting past the 1 billion mark, we're going to see people responding to that user adoption and that increase in people really using financial services on Ethereum and starting to develop on the ecosystem. I'm pretty confident we'll get there. The other thing is enterprise. Developer tools companies, in a traditional sense, the best company you could name that is a client of you is typically Google or Facebook or others, the large companies. In crypto, the large companies, for a number of reasons, haven't been the main buyers of these developer tools. Why? Well, they're having struggles with adoption. First, they have no consensus on the primary use case. They're all using it for different things. And two, nearly half of them think it's overhyped. And finally, nearly a third of them think we don't even see that there's going to be a return on investment of using these protocols. And these things alone, a lot of enterprises are focused on private blockchains, on being able to ensure privacy and securing their data and only exchanging data with select other private entities rather than on public blockchains. So they're simply not able to leverage those same tools. Now, if that doesn't deter you, then I want to talk a bit about how it feels to work in this space. There is a really diverse and vibrant community. Intellectually, there's people from backgrounds in finance, from trading, from economic research, from academia, from engineering, and they're really passionate about it. They're truly passionate about this space. I started coding when I was 12. I was really early in the technology space, and I love the excitement that people had even before it was the cool place to be. And I think crypto is in the same stage right now. However, we still need more demographic diversity. So we still need a lot more women joining. We need a lot more people from different backgrounds, right? From legal backgrounds, from many other backgrounds to come in and join this vibrant ecosystem and make sure that we develop it together. There's a remote and decentralized working style. This is really, really cool. Silicon Valley is an important part of crypto, but there's places in Asia, there's places in Europe where it's being developed. And there's many examples in the Baltics. But it's not just the geographical distribution, it's also the working style. People in crypto work a lot in open source. A lot of the communication happens over GitHub and over GitHub issues. A lot of the collaboration happens by people creating a grant that's funded by an anonymous set of donors and using that grant to pay a programmer to add a new functionality to a blockchain network. People are experimenting with decentralized autonomous governance, which means that you can have a bunch of people come together and start voting through blockchain on what should be developed. And that is already happening to drive the development of blockchain. The one challenge is problematic infrastructure. And this is a plus for people who want to work on developer tools because you can work on fixing it. But I've spent many hours trying to work with tools that change very frequently, and you have to adapt to that. But luckily, the community is really helpful, and they're always eager to fix and evolve things as we go on. I think there's actually advantages for Baltic startups, and this is an important point. I think this is a space we can really make a mark in. One, there are still significant engineering and design challenges, and I think we're a really talented ecosystem for these types of fundamental problems. There's still R&D challenges in crypto. There's a lot of different approaches to scaling and security that need to be figured out, but equally there's so many challenges on adoption. How to create a new user experience, how to make this really easy, how to make this easier to use than your mobile bank that you have on your phone. All that has to be figured out. Two, this remote-first culture is, I think, a perfect opportunity. We're based in London. We work with teams in the US, in the UK, have developers in Spain. This is going to be a community where remote is the default way of working. And being in the Baltics is not going to be a disadvantage, like it may have been before. And finally, high market fragmentation. This is still a really early market, so in a lot of these categories, you may not have a lot of competition. You may not have a lot of big players coming in, so there's still so much opportunity to come in and shape this market that I really, really invite you to consider joining this space. So bring it back. Hopefully I've convinced you that developer tools, while becoming more important in general, are going to be foundational in shaping the way crypto evolves. It's going to be win or lose as to whether crypto is going to be able to compete with traditional financial institutions and create new ways of creating security, risk management, trust, and overcoming our legal challenges, and helping these small teams of developers and designers to really compete with the big giants. And I hope some of you will have a go at this market. And finally, you can check out Auditless on the website. You can find me on Twitter. And we're actually hiring developers. So let us know if you're interested to learn more about the space. I'm always happy to talk to anyone after the conference about how you may want to enter. Whether you're a developer or a lawyer or a designer, I think there's room for everyone in crypto. Thank you.